The one that blows my mind is this. On the pack of a cigarette pack or whatever, you would see smokers are liable to die young, and then people still do this in the millions. And it's almost like as a society, we see this addiction and we see what it's doing to people, and we tell them this is what's going to do to them, but we don't take away the choice. Do you see what the problem is? And I know once you start saying taking away choices from people, it starts going into fascism and policing people into being a certain type. But why are we giving people a choice to kill themselves? Hello world, it's me, Abraham Sharon. Welcome to today's episode of the podcast. As you can see, I do not have a guest here or here. I am alone today, but hey, I do my best work alone, don't I? Yeah. So if you're coming from episode three, welcome to episode four. If you haven't seen episode one, two, three, I implore you to watch them. Although you can watch any episode at any point you want, but I always like to think of it as my own little mini series, like a catalog or blog or vlog of my own life as time goes on. So today is August the 1st, or no, it's the 2nd. Today's the 2nd of August, and Nigeria right now, people are running through protests and whatnot. Um, yeah, it's very sad. We've heard of deaths already. I hope it gets better, tomorrow and everything. But kudos to everyone who did go out to protest bad governance. Our hearts are with you, even if we're not physically there, and we are reposting everything and we are liking every post. We are supporting you in any and every way we can. So, Nigeria is going to be better one day, and that one day starts today. So, moving away from that, today's topic is going to be a very morbid one. And that is actually the topic, a very morbid one, right? Okay, that was cool if you ask me. I'm gonna be talking about like morbid stuff, but I do not shy away from the morbid stuff. I think it's stuff that it's important to talk about, but we don't like to think about it because it's sad and it's morbid or whatever. But hey, someone needs to think about it, and today that someone is me and you. So, let's start from this. Did you know that in this day and age, with all the medical advances that we have in the world, we have more sick people today than we've ever had? And of course, this data might be skewed in some way because we do have more people than we've had, ever. But also, we have a wider range of diseases. It's kind of one of those things where I feel if you didn't know it was there, what you don't know would not kill you. But because we can now test for almost any single disease, even as down all the way to the DNA level, we can test for everything, and so we're finding anything and everything that is wrong with the human, makeup. So yeah, I can understand how that DNA is skewed, but we're also, going to talk about, part of this data, the people who are sick, maybe some mental sickness or people who have some form of addiction that would lead to sickness. So one of the things that I, noticed or I picked up from really going through this study that I'm actually referencing right now is that because of the amount of advancement in technology, many people are more lax with their health, and they always assume that when stuff goes down, at least with enough money and enough public health care, they can get the treatment they need. We think they will be able to get the treatment they need. And so this has led the world down this path where we really, like I say, don't care about our own health. Many young people do not care about their own health. But today I want to really specify on health that stems from things that could be addictions, right? Mostly things like drinking or smoking. And I understand that addictions are, they vary, and people's addictions are very, you can hide them, and some are not so hidden. Like they can, have effects on your public life, right? Actually, now that I think about it, every addiction can have effect on your public life, can't it? No matter how hidden it is. Okay, yeah, that is how I'll go with that instead. So every addiction can have effects on your public life. Me on the other hand, I've never had the urge to, like I say, drink or smoke. And I'm not even coming at this from like a religious perspective, right? This is not a religious thing in any way. At the time when I was really coming, into my own self, and I could see that drinking and smoking were options in the world. Maybe it was my Christian upbringing, but I would not attribute it to that, even though my parents were not neither of these things. But I never had the urge to either drink or smoke ever till today. I haven't had any interactions with it. As you can see, I hesitated there because there was this one time. My best friend Timmy would know what we're talking about, but story for another day. Maybe I'll put it on my TikTok one day. There was this one situation, but it was a very dicey one. I stepped out of it though. But anyway, peer pressure. It wasn't Timmy that was the peer pressure. Those who know both of us, it was someone else. But peer pressure is the thing. But yeah, so apart from that one situation where I was almost peer pressured into actually smoking, um, I've never had any dalliances, let's use that word, with these, things. And it makes me now think of those that already do. And I'm not here to shame anyone into like, this is what you're doing, you're bad for it, boo, boo, boo. No, of course not. I understand that people get into these things, maybe peer pressure, maybe it was, as a crutch, which I think most of these things are. Most things that tend to be addictions and are bad for us are crutches that stem from injuries in other parts of our lives. We're just using these things to cope. I do not pray that anyone, falls into stuff that, stuff bad enough that they need a crutch, like, whatever thing it is. But we do need to realize that these things are still bad for us. The one that blows my mind is this. On the pack of a cigarette pack or whatever, you would see smokers are liable to die young. And then people still do this in the millions. And it's almost like as a society, we see this addiction and we see what it's doing to people and we tell them this is what's going to do to them, but we don't take away the choice. Do you see what the problem is? And I know once you start saying taking away choices from people, it starts going into fascism and, policing people into being a certain type. But why are we giving people a choice to kill themselves? Oh, sorry. So, why are we giving people a choice to kill themselves openly and socially? These are things like imagine a world. Let's start from there. Imagine a world where people are actually smoking on the street and then they have to hide it if someone else is coming. That for me is a better option than people who just openly do it. Like this stuff is so ingrained into society right now. I mean, I'm not gonna talk about Nigeria. I feel like in Nigeria, it is still kind of shunned because it's a far more conservative society than the rest of the world. But for example, in the UK where I am, people have smoke breaks that have already been meshed into the work life. They get smoke breaks. Lecturers, tell people, oh, if you want to go take a smoke for, for 10 minutes. It's so ingrained into the society here that it blows my mind. Smokers are liable to die young. This has now moved on into the what do you call these things now? The name literally just skipped my mind. Vapes, exactly. Vapes. This just moved into the vape pandemic, which is what I call it. People don't see it as a pandemic yet, but there is a whole generation of people who are going to have a bunch of lung cancers and whatnot, that's going to come off this vaping thing. And I've heard a lot of stories. I'll tell you two of them. One is very annoying, and the other is just very, very sad. So let's start from the annoying one. So one day I was coming back from buying groceries and I walked into my street and it smelled like cherries. Here's the crazy part. I'm not really sure I've eaten cherries before, but when I smelled it, what came to my mind was, oh, cherries. This is so beautiful. And then this was during the earlier time when I came to the UK, and I was like, wait, this cannot be like a natural scent in the air, right? I know there's already like the white supremacy thing where we already think white people are better than us, but there is no way in hell that their air, their their own environment just smells like cherries, does it? So I'm walking to my street, then he hit me. Just on there's an undertone of smoke, and I'm like, oh, of course, someone was vaping right past me, and I must not have noticed the vape in their hand or something. But they blown their fumes into the air, and now I'm just a secondary smoker out here inhaling cherries and whatnot. Like I said, That one is kind of annoying. Um, wouldn't it be nice if the air just smelled like cherries though? But that's a side thing. Yeah, the second one. So this one I heard on the radio when I was in a friend's car. Um, a girl was, just dropped, not dead, kind of like fainted, or was, she kind of felt out of breath and just fainted. She was taken to the hospital, and they found out that there was a what did they call it? Not a lesion per se. There was a hole in her lung, a hole in her lung, and apparently it was because she was vaping. So you know how you take like a cigarette and you put it on, like, let's say I put a cigarette out on my shirt right here and it will make a hole. It was something like that. Somehow, every time she smoked it, like she did the thing, it was hitting like a particular part of her lung and it punctured a hole in it. And that was why she kind of gassed out and all of that. For the rest of her life, she's gonna have to deal with that issue. Um, and imagine all the bills. In a capitalist society, I mean, that's the first thing that comes to my head. Imagine all the bills and all the ways her life would really be changed because of this one thing that society gave her the choice to do, even when we all know smokers are liable to die young. So this is where I'm really coming from. I don't. It really is a pandemic, and I can see it now. All the people that the medical system will have to deal with from us giving people this choice. Now, I'm not saying we should take the choice away from the world, or maybe I am saying that, but I'm telling you who's listening now that you don't have to pick that choice. And I know I've been hammering on the smoking thing. It's the same thing on the alcohol side. The crazy part is one of the reason why I've never wanted to do it is it has nothing to do with religion. Yes, I was raised religious, but it really has nothing to do with that. It's just logical sense. The one about alcohol blows my mind. So you're telling me right now that you drink this thing, right? It tastes bad, right? It tastes bad. Then it's, goes down and burns. That's also a thing that happens. Then your liver struggles to, I guess, work with it and, make it go through your system. Sorry, I keep on turning my head this way. There's something going on outside. Just anyway. So you drink alcohol, it burns through your throat, goes to your liver, and your liver struggles to take this thing out. Now, along the line, you forget the things that you're doing in the moment. Some people say they don't, but it doesn't matter. More than half of you probably would if you drink enough. You forget the things you do in the moment. You're not liable for your own actions, or maybe you are, but you were drunk, so we'll blame the alcohol, right? And then next morning you feel shitty. What part of this experience, like if you brought people who had never drunk before and you're like, oh, here's a drink, this is the effect. You're gonna drink it, right? It's gonna burn all the way down. It doesn't taste great. You will not remember what you're gonna do from 6 o'clock, maybe for the next 6 hours. And tomorrow morning you're gonna be throwing up bad. Everyone, if you brought this into a room of people who had never heard of alcohol, none of them will touch it. But somehow we've socially made it this cool thing that should be done. And people even say they're social drinkers, blah, 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 blah. There is no excuse if you ask me. And some of you might say, Sharon, are you judging them? You know what? Yes. Yes. I can't even say it. Yes, I'm judging you. It's so hard to bring it out. But I feel like, yes, I am. Do I feel like I'm better than you? Yes. Yes, I do. Why is anyone doing this for any reason? And I know I have people who would say, call me friend that do this. I don't know how to tell you guys to stop. I can't make anyone stop. This is all I can really do. But really it is a pandemic. It is the underlying pandemic that we're not seeing because it's not like COVID and it's not, something that is being passed in the air. But crazy enough, isn't it being passed in the air? It's been made this cool thing that anyone can just do and no one's gonna judge you for it. But I'm here, I'm helping you, I'm your friend. I'm gonna judge you for it because I want you in your old age to not be lying on a bed and everyone is hovering around like, oh, so sorry this horrible thing happened to you. We might be sorry, but it's on you. It's your fault. And I promise I will be there with each and every one of you, holding your hand, soothingly telling you it's all going to be okay. But know that deep down in my heart, I'm saying it's your fault because it is. Crazy enough, Billie Eilish. I don't know how she comes into the conversation, but Billie Eilish has a song. She is the queen of morbid songs, if you really think about it. I think it's really cool how she's been able to talk about like very hard things in her music at such a young age, especially. But anyway, she has a song where she talks about the fact that her friends are drinking themselves, smoking themselves, doing drugs. Hers was kind of like the whole drug thing, but they're doing things to their bodies now that's gonna affect them later on in life. And I think in that particular situation, one of them actually something happened to them when they were young, and now they have to live their life in pain. And she said, and I quote, I can't remember what song exactly it was right now, but she said she would rather see them die than for them to live their life so long in so much pain. A very hard thing to contemplate, very hard words. But those are words that I can understand, and those are words that I stand by. I, you might as well go to your maker instead of living a life where you're going to be in pain forever and ever and ever. Okay, not forever, but till you eventually die from that thing. Because at the end of the day, many of these things are recurring. There would always be side effects from the treatments, from the way it just make you feel. Uh yeah. Sorry, I'm just thinking about a friend of mine. Um, he died in 2020, and it was one of those things. It was in Nigeria, and the health system in Nigeria is nothing to write home about. He went to different doctors and hospitals, and no one was able to pinpoint what exactly it was. Until today, I still ask myself, was it, what was it? Because I knew he drank. He probably smoked here and there. I don't know. I feel like it's a slippery slope. Once you get into one, it's maybe easy to get into another. Um, but yeah, he died in 2020, like a few weeks before the lockdown. We had heard of coronavirus, and it was something the Chinese were going through. It wasn't the whole world. And there's some days when people mention COVID, and I remember him, and I go in my head, I'm like, he never got to witness lockdown. Coronavirus and the pandemic was not something he saw, which is seems like something our generation is going to talk about a lot, because it was crazy to be inside like that. But he never got to witness that. And I never want to have to feel that way anymore, where I lose people maybe for reasons that could have been stopped. Am I overthinking this? Maybe, maybe not. But there is a saying that no, old men know they will die. No, I'm mixing it up. Yeah. So young men know they will die, but only old men believe it. Yeah, that's the saying. Young men know they will die, but only old men believe it. We don't want to think about it. We're young and none of us want to consider our mortality, but it's something we do have to consider. Every day, there are things we do that probably are not even alcohol or drug related, right? That could kill us later, and you don't want to spend your days thinking about it. But I always tell myself, drink one more cup of water instead of taking a monster, which is my own thing. I've been trying to really wean off the monster. It's something I take when I'm really stressed, or I know I'm about to have a long day, so I just buy a can or two, and I go through it. There was this weekend, I think I drank maybe 4 monsters in 3 days, which is very bad for my health, I know. So drink more water, right? Take that walk. Put that vegetable on your meal just one more time. Every time you think, oh God, I'm tired of not doing this thing, or of doing this thing, just drink that water. One more cup of water will not kill you. Just a little more vegetables on your food will not kill you. Taking that walk so you're not sitting down all day will not kill you. Saying no to that soft drink will not kill you. Doing that one healthy thing could be the deciding factor in you being the one holding someone's hand saying, oh, I'm sorry this is happening to you, or you being the one whose hand is held, right? Um, in thinking about this episode, I'm rounding up now, I promise. It's very sad, I know. I'm rounding up now, I promise. In thinking about this episode, I write stuff down as it goes through my head. Yeah, I'm just going to read something I wrote down. I think part of it came from a show I was watching of these people were dealing with grief, and they were talking to a therapist. And I think part of this thing came from that, but also when I was thinking about this episode. Yeah. So I'm just gonna read it to you guys, and we're gonna end it there. I promise. I know, very sad. Anyway, so I wrote down the wow, kind of in my feelings right now since I talked about my friend. Um, Before I read it, let me say this: people die three times. Um, One of my friends, I told this last week, she didn't believe me, or she said it's not a real thing, but it's real to me. People die three times. The first time you die is when you go into the ground. The second time you die is when no one ever mentions your name ever again. That means no one who knew you, right? No one who has heard of you ever mentions your name ever again. That is the second death. The third death is when the people who knew you or could have heard of you are all gone. Like the people who physically saw you and those who probably heard of you have died. Where you got into the annals of history, and no one alive knows you anymore. Like it's just far ahead of your time. That's a third death, and that probably is something that happens to everyone, right? You can't escape the third death. But every time I think of my friend, I want to mention his name so he doesn't go through the second death, because this is my way of keeping him alive. When he died, I wrote an article on Medium that's still there. So I know somewhere in the depths of the internet, his name is still being read by someone or is being kept alive by the internet. And I guess this is another um, way of doing that. His name was Chinedu Unduku, and he loved Manchester United. I'm an Arsenal fan. I do not love Manchester United, but he did, and was a topic we discussed a lot of the time. So that is his name. Okay, I'm going to read this now. Now that I've told you his name, I guess it'll take a while for the second death to happen to him, right? All right. So, the denial of death, of our own mortality, is essential. If we are constantly aware of our own fragility, of the emptiness that we are close to all the time, we will be filled with terror, right? If at every single point in our lives we are constantly aware of all the things that could kill us, of all the things that could go wrong, we will never really live. And I get it. This is probably going to be the one argument some people are going to throw at me. We can't keep on going through our lives thinking about when we die. But we can't go through our lives making sure that our deaths are not horrible, that our deaths are, the mundane kind, the 90-year-old old man who's just, it's just his time, not the he has some form of cancer, or probably died from alcohol poisoning or lung thing, or all the other things are very avoidable, right? And I think that really is the point of today. We have an effect on how we get to live this world, and let's keep it mundane, shall we? It's a very morbid one, isn't it? Okay, I'm done now. I promise, I'm done. Okay. Thank you very much for listening. Oh, I hope I have not scared everyone away by talking about this, but this is real for me. So I hope somebody else hears me and understands where I'm coming from. So as we always do, I recommend very good music, because I listen to music to heal my soul from thinking about all these things that I do think about. And so I'm gonna recommend a song that has carried me through the hardest times of my life. And maybe one day I'll talk about it here when I have moved past the shame of that point in my life, because, very hard time. But anyway, this song is called Comforting Sounds by Birdie. It is 10 minutes of unadulterated peace. It is it's a bunch of instruments just going at it, and it goes up, it rises and it falls, and it's amazing. And I played this particular song in the hardest of times I had when I was in Nigeria. This song, I've not played this song in a while actually, and I realized that I've connected that song to my pain. But it is called Comforting Sounds, and it is comforting. Maybe I'll listen to it today to get out of this funk I put myself in. But hey, someone has to think about the morbid things, right? All right. So I'm done now. Thank you very much for listening. And I promise there will not be any morbid talk for at least another 4 episodes. Thank you very much for being here. My name is Sharon Abraham. Hello, world. It is still me.